My wife became neglectful after she became obsessed with Roblox.
Gotta respect the game, dude. It's Roblox.
Hey.
I don't know what you want.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Exactly.
My wife, 37 female, and I, 36 male, have always tried to keep the housework pretty evenly split between us. I, for example, mow the lawn and do laundry and dishes, and she meal plans, cooks, and picks up / drops off the kids. And by the way, this comes from user middle leading 8469. And if you want to submit your stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit and submit them there. Lately, this has all changed because she has become hopelessly obsessed to a game called Dress to Impress on Roblox. If you aren't familiar, it's a game where you have to dress your character in a themed outfit before the time runs out, and then other players rate it from 1 to 5 stars. It started off harmless, just a little fun thing she would do during downtime before bed, but recently she has missed crucial appointments and chores because of this game. I tried to be understanding and gently remind her to do her tasks, but she would always say she forgot and got distracted. The big argument happened last night when she forgot to pick up our 9-year-old son from basketball practice, which ended at 6 p.m. I hadn't gotten home yet as I had to work late, and our son doesn't have a phone, so I had no way of knowing the situation. I eventually got home around 7 and realized he was not in his room. I looked around further and saw that he was nowhere to be found. I walked into our bedroom confused to ask my wife where he was and found her on her iPad playing the game, as always. When I asked her where our son was, her eyes grew wide, and I knew what happened without her having to say. I immediately got back into my car and went to pick him up. Luckily, his coach had stayed after to make sure he was picked up safe, and I apologized profusely. Apparently, he had been calling and texting my wife, who was the emergency contact, and she didn't even notice. When we got home, I immediately blew up at her. How could she be so addicted to a kid's game that she completely forgot our own son? Now she's telling me it was a one-time thing and that I'm an a-hole for getting angry. I don't know what to think. I do kind of understand her side of the story as it has only happened one time, but she has to be a responsible parent. She can't just completely forget about our child who has no way to get home on his own. So, am I the a-hole?
No.
It's like, sure, it's only been one time, but it's like it should be 0 times that you forget your kid exists when he's at basketball practice.
For an hour. Like, it's not the kind of thing where it's just like, oh, sorry, my bad. Like, my bad I didn't pick up my own son who's 9 years old.
Yeah.
Like that's not something that can just be like, hey, you gotta do this. Like, and then she's like, okay, sure. Like, this is like, no, yeah, he's absolutely allowed to be mad about this.
And imagine how your kid feels. Your kid's like, my mom forgot about me.
Right.
There are some relevant comments here. Let's go ahead and get into it. Not the a-hole. This is not a chore that she's blowing off. It's forgetting your own child. How could she not even notice the calls and texts from the coach? That's what I'm wondering about. Is something else going on with her? OP says, I'm not entirely sure how she missed all of the messages and phone calls. We haven't spoken much since the argument. I haven't noticed anything different with her, but I could be missing things. Commenter Sue says, OP, is her iPad hooked up to her iPhone? Because if it is, then your wife willfully ignored the messages and calls. Those things are shown on any Apple device hooked to the same accounts. Also, I would remove your wife from every emergency contact or add yourself with a note requiring they notify you both. OP says, I think the other replies are right. She has her iPad on silent. Still, I feel like she would have seen the notifications. Anyway, I texted the coach to add my number to the emergency contact list, so hopefully nothing like this will happen again. Commenter 3, is this real? She needs therapy if she's so addicted to a silly kids game with avatars that she's forgetting her own real child. This is a scary and serious event for your child. Exactly. And okay, maybe losing track of time, but missing the calls and the texts too, that's insane. Not the a-hole. Hope your kid's okay. He probably felt so scared and abandoned. OP says, thanks for your concern. I'm planning on talking to her tomorrow morning because we'll have had a good day to cool off and think about it. I talked to my son in the car after the original event, and he seemed okay from my perspective. Obviously a little afraid and confused, but nothing that should impact him in the long run. I'll continue to be checking up on him and making sure, though. OP, comment 4, OP, it could be worth getting one of those phones that can only dial certain numbers for your son and change the emergency contacts to yourself and another trustworthy adult within acceptable distance from your area, just till she proves herself and stays off the game. OP says, good idea. Might look into a flip phone or something similar. I just don't want to give him free reign on the internet so young, so this will probably be a good solution. Commenter 5, I'm not the a-hole, but I have questions. Does your wife work? What time does she get home? How does your kid get home when he doesn't have practice? How many kids do you have? Jeez, that's a lot of questions. Who normally makes dinner and when do you all eat? I'm struggling to understand how this happened. OP says she works part-time, usually gets home around 2. 22. We only have one kid. He gets home on the school bus when there's no practice. She, in the past, has been the one in charge of cooking and food, but recently I've started to do this because of the events in the post. We're usually eating around 6:30, and there is an update.
We're going to get back to the story, but Sam, you have a copious amount of something.
What, John?
X's.
I have like 4 or 5 or 6.
I heard of 6 with a 0
All
behind
right,
it.
that 60 number, comes from somewhere else.
Where does that come from?
It comes from our OK Storytime membership.
Yeah, that's freaking right. We have 60 plus hours of exclusive live streams on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
And it's only $5 a month, so go to the link in our description, youtube.com/OKOP show/join.
Join a club almost as exclusive as Sam's X's. Well, let's get back to the story.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for all your advice on my previous post. So I decided to have a conversation with my wife the day after I made the post about the time spent on video games. We talked for a while, and I tried to bring up important things people talked about in the comments. I saw a lot of people suggesting that I completely block and delete Roblox from her devices, and I brought that up. Obviously, she didn't take that well. I told her it's completely unacceptable what she has been doing, and there needs to be at least a time limit set on her device. I can't control her, but I made it clear it's a very important thing to me, and it would damage our relationship if she said no. After I said this, she agreed to the time limits. Another thing I saw a lot in the comments was concern for my wife's mental health. I appreciate people's insight into this because it's something I don't really have a lot of experience in. I asked her if she would consider seeing a therapist, and she said she would think about it. People were also concerned about how my son is feeling after all this. I didn't realize that it was something that may have an impact on him. I had a conversation with him and made sure he understood his mom and I love and care for him. Nothing like this would ever happen again. But if you want to listen to full episodes with stories like this again and again and again, all you have to do is go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from and search OK Storytime.
Just if you're listening, just remember to pick up your kids. You could pause us for that. That's okay.
Yeah, you can take us with you. We're mobile. Like
There
you
you
can just
go.
put us in your ears and
So right.
yeah, you don't have to dress to impress us. We take you as you are.
Oh yeah.
And there is a little bit left in the story here, but I think we've kind of already hit everything. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
Let's do it.
I have also ordered him a cheap flip phone so he wouldn't be completely stranded alone if these events did end up repeating. If there's anything I should do or could do differently regarding my son, please let me know because I don't exactly know how to navigate the situation. Really quickly on the cell phone bit, it's like,
Yeah.
I remember I had one like that. Like
Like a flip phone?
it wasn't a flip phone. It's like literally a phone designed like for kids where it's like
Oh.
you can only call numbers that are saved in the phone book and you can only receive calls from those numbers.
Oh wow.
It was called a Firefly. I don't
that's
know.
Cool.
It was like
think
it
I've
looked
heard
like
of
a
that.
little it was like a little orange like oval phone.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
Cute.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this thing is so cool.
Dude, I work with like a lot of 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, iPhones all over the
Yeah,
place. It's
that-
wild.
that
it's
is
wild.
I would not. I completely understand not wanting to give your kid an iPhone,
Yeah.
but
'Cause I get safety, but like
Yeah.
having a phone like that is actually like I don't know why I didn't even think of that, but
Yeah.
that's very smart.
Yeah.
Very different.
there are, and there should, if there were phones like that before, there should still be phones like that now, I'm sure. I don't want to be too harsh on my wife. We love each other, and it's been made more clear after our talk that this should not be marriage ending or cause any lasting damage. And I agree with that.
Mhm.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
To consider ending your marriage over dress to impress is wild.
Right.
It's just a conversation, and it's like, why is our behavior the way it is right now?
Yeah.
Do we see that we need to make changes?
Exactly.
If anyone has any further advice or thoughts, I'll be happy to read it. Thank you. We do have some comments. From my experience, it can be quite hard to quit in a behavior like this, so she needs to be really committed and willing to try and fail quite a few times before really getting into a new groove. I personally can't just do something a little bit or have timers. I just have to quit it altogether before the compulsion or obsession disappears. The other things to watch for is switching. So she drops the Roblox but starts playing Candy Crush or drinking, etc. If you're looking for some more information on it, Gabor Mate is a good beginning, and his addiction was classical music rather than substance. Another resource you might like is Johan Hari, Stolen Focus, How Big Tech Deliberately Designed Software Devices to Be Dopamine-Driven and Addictive. If you guys can stick with it and persist in pushing through the other side, what she might experience is a period of boredom, frustration, or irritability, and then gradually start to feel more normal and enjoy life again. Hope you all do well. And there's another comment here, another point. You don't have to be harsh on your wife, but you should be firm. I like the concept of responsible compassion. You love the person, you sit with their feelings, but they're still held accountable for their behavior and choices. When they fail, you're there, but you expect them to try again, and you hold reasonable boundaries. Commenter 3 says, OP, it's really good that you talked and that she seems to have heard you. My question is, does she work outside the home? If she does, she has a part-time job. Perhaps having a job would help her not be so obsessed. Even a part-time job that gets her out of the house or around people, maybe that would help a lot. Perhaps being home alone so much made it too easy to get too involved in gaming. As to your son, if she hasn't grasped how serious that was, she really should get some treatment. What she did could have caused long-term trauma to him, abandonment issues, and feelings that his mom doesn't want him around. Not saying he feels this way, but he could. You did great by talking to him and reassuring him, but did she? That is the end of that story there.
Listen, you could be to anything. And phones and games are very highly at risk
Yes.
for that kind of stuff.
Big old dopamine generators right there.
Oh, yeah.
But that is the end of that story. We are going to get into the next one.